All right, get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Windows 10 for SMBs. My name is Nick Fillingham. On the stage with me is Brian Smith.
Hello.
And Ford McKinstry. Ford will be joining us a little later for a demo of the store for business. Brian and I are going to walk you through Windows 10 for SMBs. We have a lot of content, and we want to make this somewhat interactive and definitely respond to what you guys want to see and hear. So please use the microphones, jump in with questions, requests for clarification. We have some prizes up the front for great questions / bribery to keep you in the room. Brian and I visited apparently a very famous Chicago deep dish pizza restaurant last night, and we have 3 wonderful slices that we took home in a doggy bag. It was refrigerated, so there is a lower chance that you will take salmonella from this. But if you would like to take a slice, it's right here. Microsoft obviously takes no responsibility for your health if you eat that pizza. So who are we? Well, we're marketing guys. I just want to set your expectation up front. This is not a technical session. If you are looking for a technical session, this is kind of not it. So we are going to cover kind of 100-level marketing value prop and kind of features of Windows 10 with the specific lens of SMBs. And when we say SMBs, when Brian and I say that, we're thinking of small businesses anywhere from 5 seats or maybe even smaller, all the way up to about 250. So when you see SMB, that's what we're thinking of. So what's in this session? Value prop, story. We will go over some of the key features. We'll do a little bit of demo. But everything we're demoing is from the current 1074 build, the one that was released last week as part of the build conference. So again, nothing kind of new to show here, but very happy to help clarify something that you may have seen in a very brief demo and want to go a little bit deeper, but again, kind of not technical. If you are looking for technical content, here is what's available. If you run very fast, you might catch the beginning of Michael Niehause's Windows 10 deployment session. That's happening right now. Obviously, I haven't given you a room number, so that's kind of not really helpful information. But throughout the next few days, tons and tons of great sessions, and we'll try and point you in the right direction as we go through this content.
Yeah, and we did, in each of the sections, we do have particular sessions picked out to help you with those particular issues, and some of the experts that are there to help.
So at the top of the presentation, we're going to talk about kind of what is an SMB. So a few kind of quiz questions here, and if you want, you're welcome to come get a prize for the answers here. What is the top decision factor for an IT investment? Brian?
Yeah, so this is, we've done quite a bit of research, qualitative research, quantitative research. We've talked with a lot of partners, a lot of customers, just about early feedback on Windows 10. So this is kind of the results of some of the research that we've done. So this is a little bit of quiz, and this is specifically around for an IT decision maker, for a business decision maker, what's the number one decision factor? D, total cost to deploy. Price of the solution.
Do we have other guesses?
Yep, keep going.
C is actually
strategy.
The correct
That
answer.
is correct.
Come and see us afterwards, or you can come see us now for a baseball, some candy, or the wonderful pizza slice. There's 3 pizza slices because I know you all want it.
You should throw out the baseballs, actually.
We should throw it. You want to throw a baseball? Do you want a baseball?
Awesome. Okay.
That's awesome. Come see me afterwards.
Very good. Yes, it aligns with business strategy. So a little bit interesting, right? And I think the takeaway here that we've had from our customers has been, as a small business, there's no extra room for maneuver, right? There's no wasted money. Everything you do technologically, everything you do in operations has to be aligned with the business strategy, has to be a clear business goal coming out of it. So that's a common theme that you'll see through the presentation. Oops.
Yeah, the next question here is around, oh, we just gave it away. Oh, no, we didn't. The next question here is around the second, so what's the second highest decision factor for IT? So we've crossed out C, what's left?
Price.
What was that?
Total cost.
E, no.
Price. One more, keep going.
Did
B.
someone say B? And it's B.
Ability to scale. So again,
what's this source, Brian? Because we're hearing a lot of people going, I don't agree with that.
You need 2 slices.
He gets 2 slices.
This is a piece of research that we did about 1.5 years ago, and it covers SMB worldwide. And it specifically looks at small businesses from 0 or 1 up to 50, and then it has a separate cut for medium up to 250. So This one, thanks Nick for aligning Thor. So there's some slight differences. The formal purchase process is the only one that's really out of order here. That's more important for medium-sized businesses. And here you see the numbers, 100 to 999. But everything else is pretty much in line. So fits with the business strategy, clearly number one. Scalable solution, these three are actually tied. So we use the small business as a tiebreaker. So scalable solution is number two, then total cost to deploy. So again, I think scalable solution, the really important point here is that small businesses really need to invest at the level that meets their needs. They can't do a lot of capital expenditures, spending a lot of money up front, putting a lot of on-premise equipment in, really pre-spending and getting the benefits over a long period of time. They really look to scale for the solution that meets their need at the moment. They don't know if they're going to be in business in 2 months, so they need to be able to basically control their cash flows.
All right, so the third question, and for the third slice of pizza, I'm looking at the gentleman here in the fifth row. What is the top IT spending area for US SMBs? Now, I didn't necessarily think this answer. I didn't guess this one.
No.
So I'd be very fascinated to see if you guys agree with this. Anyone want to yell out an answer?
I heard upgrade PCs. I heard mobility. B, upgrade PCs.
This one's interesting. We'd love to kind of hear from you guys if you agree with this. Upgrade PCs, that's kind of a very amorphous thing. I mean, are they talking about hardware? They're talking about software? They're talking about peripherals? What are they talking about? But interesting to see the kind of upgrade PCs was listed there. I don't know who hit B. Was it our gentleman at the front with the...
It's over here, actually.
Somewhere over here. Ah, slice of pizza for you, sir.
We have candy. We have some.
We have candy as
Chicago
well.
souvenirs.
I mean, you want the pizza. It's fantastic.
I think you should go hand these out at one of the breaks.
We actually have a fourth question, and I think I've just given away the answer, haven't I? There you go. So the second IT spending area for US SMBs, improving network security and management. So that was just really to kind of ground you guys in where we, through the studies that we've both conducted ourselves and purchased through partners, have kind of seen where SMBs are going. And what the top strategic areas are kind of moving forward.
I do think on the first one, upgrade PCs, I do think this applies to hardware. I think there was a lull in the past few years after the recession, and there wasn't a lot of refresh going on. I think there's a lot of aging PCs out there. There's still a lot of XP in the install base. So I think that hardware refresh is really what they're referring to on number one here. I think the rest of these are pretty straightforward. What's the feel in the crowd? Does this sound right?
Seeing some nods.
Some
Does
nods,
anyone think
yeah.
this is totally upside down, disagrees with this for their market? A couple of nods here.
Are we right with the PC comment? Is this more about hardware?
Got a question here about infrastructure, or a recommendation on infrastructure. Yeah, as I said, guys, feel free to jump on the microphone if you have questions. We'd kind of love to hear from you. We're going to keep racing along, though. So throughout today's presentation, we're going to think about two fictional entities. We'll think about a customer. We're calling them Contoso Design, very original name. This is a small business, about 35 employees. They're growing. They've got 4 new hires. From a decision-making perspective, it's the business and the finance layers. It's the people management. And then on the IT side, we're looking at a trusted partner here called Fabricam IT. And they are actually, as you guys know, in the small business space, they're taking on the role as this kind of effective CTO, CIO. There's no dedicated IT resourcing in the company, let alone a board-level position that's managing information and technology. So the trusted partner takes on this role. So again, as we move through the presentation today, this is the lens that we're applying to that content.
And you'll see that what we're doing there is we're trying to take the lessons that we've heard from customers and from partners and bring them out in the presentation. So we'll talk about the benefits. We'll go through each of the feature sections that you see here around these 4 areas of how we think about the product. And in each of these sections, we'll actually lay out some of the benefits that we've heard from our customers and partners.
Great, and we're going to pepper in a few technical conundrums here. As IT folks, you guys get asked a litany of crazy questions, both from customers and the like, and I'm sure friends and family. So we'll just throw a few of them in here. I like this one. If you heat a solid-state drive to the point where it becomes a gas, is it now cloud-based storage? That may not be a real question, but I thought it was funny.
All right. So the first area when we think about Windows 10 is mobile productivity. So we think about these 3 areas: user experience, apps, new browser, Microsoft Edge, and devices.
Right, so on the left here, we obviously have the small form factors in the phone, moving all the way through to all-in-ones. And the 3 the four big selling points here for the various form factors are the variance in inputs, obviously pen and touch, one of the biggest. The ability to scale price with performance, and we have devices now that are really very functional under $300, which is great. Obviously, the Windows ecosystem allows for some amazing innovation devices. I don't need to tell you guys this, you know this, but 2-in-1s is pretty much an exclusive category for Windows. Pen, again, we pretty much own that. Touch and some of the amazing form factors like the devices that can turn into tent mode or go from traditional laptop to tablet. And then, of course, moving the business forward with some revolutionary innovation, Internet of Things, which is what we used to call Windows Embedded, HoloLens, Surface Hub. And a lot of you were asking about HoloLens and where you would see it. And so if you all look under your seat right now, you'll just see the floor. It's just there. No, is there HoloLens here? I actually don't know. I should have found that out.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
There are great videos online. So one of the great features around Windows 10, or one of the things that we've heard from customers and IT partners in perhaps their reluctance from moving from 7 to 8, was that they felt that users thought that the user experience was perhaps too jarring, too different. It was such a dynamic shift, such a massive change to go from the Windows 7 environment to this full-screen touch interface with big, colourful tiles, regardless of whether or not you had a touch input. And so really one of the biggest things for bringing Windows 10 to the masses is bringing back this feel of the familiar UX experience from Windows 7, bringing back the start menu, and really merging in all the best parts of Windows 8. We think of 10 as the best bits of 7 with the best bits of 8 and 8.1 merged together into this new OS. And so we feel that Windows 7 users will really have a very, very easy transition from 7 to 10, especially those that never ever went to 8 or never experienced 8.8.1. And of course, the unification of that experience across multiple devices is going to make a transition across the ecosystem very, very seamless. We talked before about 2-in-1s. We think this is a very powerful device category for business. It allows businesses to buy one device. It can function like a laptop in more of a desktop environment in the office, disconnect the keyboard from the screen, and now you have a tablet you can take with you to a customer or even just moving around the office for meetings. Again, that's somewhat of a unique feature to Windows. Continuum and tablet mode, obviously great ways to... Brian?
I'm wondering, Nick, if we just want to show this. Has everyone seen keynotes? Has everyone seen the foundational sessions? Raise your hand if you've seen the keynotes that saw a lot of the Windows 10 pieces.
Yeah, we're happy to skip this stuff too, guys, if you want us to move on to specific
You've seen the UX,
stuff.
Totally fine. We can go through to more of the management pieces. We can show you the UX. What's the feel of the room here? Want to see it? Yeah, head nods? Let's go through it. So why don't we skip the slides, Nick, and just go...
All right, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, okay.
So you've got hands.
Okay, got it.
So again, this is running build 1074. You guys can get this right now. Join the Windows Insider program. There's nothing you need to do except for go to insider.windows.com, sign up with your Microsoft account, and you can get access to this build right now. In fact, it was released, I think, last week. Brian, if you want to kind of jump in there.
Yep. So the first thing you'll notice is that we're on the desktop. So as you come back in, it's not coming up with the full start menu, start screen, as we did in 8.8 and 8.1, but you come into the desktop environment. So this should be very familiar for Windows 7 users. And you'll have, of course, the Start button back. Start button brings back the Start menu. So you'll see that your Windows 7 users will be very comfortable, very familiar with this experience. You'll have over here on the left side, the familiar areas of most recently used applications, File Explorer, document settings, a lot of those features that came back from the Windows 7 Start menu. You also have here some user account settings, and then recently added applications or recently used applications up here in this list. We'll also surface some applications in the store that might be of interest to you, and so they'll come up in this list as well, depending on how your behavior. And then one of the things that people really wanted to see was the power button back here on the Start menu. So you've got that as well. We've also kept this, so having that familiar environment, we've also kept this, the great bits of Windows 8 and 8.1. We did some really amazing things technically with the Start menu, and the live tiles, as you see here, is added onto the right side of the screen. So this is the familiar Windows 7 with the new modern Windows 8. And so we have live tiles here. If you're not aware, live tiles basically actively receiving very small bits of information over the internet, over the connections, and will update themselves. So the News app will always be refreshed. Your CRM app will always be refreshed with your latest status of your customer account. That's right. We have a question here.
Is there a way to turn off the live tiles?
There is, yes. If you go into any of the icons here, there's options to resize, small, medium, large, wide, and you can just turn the live tile off. I like them on, especially my news.
I have users that think it's too busy and they won't get a Windows phone because of it.
Interesting, okay. Yeah, all personal preference. We try to accommodate basically personal preference here. But this surfaces personal information, but also your business information as well.
And obviously this is a customizable experience here, so users could just drag off all the tiles, leaving 1, 2, or none. And I believe if you remove them all, it goes back to almost that Windows 7 experience with just kind of the start
Correct.
menu on the side with the list of apps. Great. Sorry, Brian.
Yep, good. So the other thing to notice is that so we've got live tiles with modern apps, but also Win32 apps in here as well. So if we have a modern app running, here, you'll notice one thing off the bat. These are no longer full screen. These are actually in a window now. So it's a windowed environment, just like your Win32 apps and your desktop apps. And you'll be able to do is, we've kept Snap from Windows 7. So you'll be able to snap to any side of the screen. You can actually snap this into quadrants as well. People found this really intuitive, really good way to get up and running productively on their desktop. And the other thing we noticed is that what's the second thing right after someone snaps an application to the side of the screen? What's the very next thing that they usually do? Snap another one. So what we've done is surface up every open application on the left side of the screen, and then the user can just come over here, choose one of the other apps, and this can be a Win32 app, this can be a modern app as well. And if you want to do quadrants, you basically will just, sorry about this, you just come over to the side, and then you can go up on the screen basically, and that will snap into the quadrants.
And then if this was a two-in-one device, it's not actually. This is the HP Spectre, so it's one of the devices can fold entirely flat and then around again to become more of a tablet mode. If this was a two-in-one, I could actually dynamically remove the screen, and I've got a Surface Pro 3 somewhere here, but dynamically remove the screen, and Windows 10 will actually know that you've disconnected the keyboard, and then it will turn on tablet mode. And tablet mode is going to make some kind of subtle changes to the UX. It's going to increase the spacing between some of the buttons and the icons to make sure those with kind of fat fingers aren't double tapping or hitting two icons at once.
Yep. Yeah, basically what you find is that as soon as you remove that keyboard, what happens is you enter into tablet mode. There will be this is user optional, user customizable. There will be a flyout window that comes out down here around the lower right of the screen. Yep. Ask if you want to enter tablet mode. So you can just tap the button, and you'll switch into this tablet mode dynamically. You won't have to do what I just did, which is to go in and press the button. But what happens is your start menu now goes into full screen mode. Your taskbar down below removes all the open icons, and it just goes into the basic core navigable features, basically. You'll have a back button, you'll have the home button, you'll have the task view and that sort of thing. So it immediately goes into this more full-screen immersive experience as well.
Yeah, the great thing is here, if you are a mouse and keyboard worker with a touchscreen, you could add a touchscreen at some point. You have the ability to manually turn on tablet mode or not. But then if you have a two-in-one device, the OS is going to dynamically understand when you attach a keyboard or remove a keyboard and make those changes for you.
One thing that is present in both desktop and tablet mode is you still have the ability to switch back and forth. You have this thing called task view. So let me go back into desktop mode.
And again, guys, we want this to be interactive. I mean, there is so much content we could potentially kind of walk you through. Please jump on the microphone, let us know what you want to see, or if you have questions. We'll keep barreling along, but feel free to use those microphones and obviously earn your
So one of the things that we noticed was that Alt-Tab, very powerful feature. A lot of the technical enthusiasts, people such as yourselves, know about Alt-Tab, use it on a daily basis and constantly. It's actually very few of our user base is actually aware of it, however. So Alt-Tab, as you know, you can switch between different apps. Here we've surfaced up the actual app itself so you can see what you're opening up. And what we've done for those users who weren't familiar with Alt-Tab, we actually made it discoverable in this button here called Task View. So what this does is This makes it very easy for someone who's not a power user, who doesn't know about the keyboard shortcuts, to come in and see all their open apps, see everything that's running on the screen. Then they just come in with their mouse and keyboard and click, or they can go in and just open it up with their finger as well. This is also available in the tablet mode. And what you'll see is, on Windows 8 and 8.1, we had the right swipe and the left swipe. Left swipe brought up your open apps. And you'll see, if you left swipe on this device now, same thing opens, it goes into that task view. Right swipe, which brought up the charms bar in 8.1, now brings up your notification center. So this is something that's very similar to what we have in Windows Phone. These are actually now the same in Windows 10, but it was on Windows Phone 8. And this is just a very quick section to get into your most common settings. Here you can actually switch into tablet mode on the fly like that, or take it off. You can actually turn on and off your Wi-Fi, or you can go into airplane mode. Just a very easy way. You'll also get your notifications in one spot up here on the top, as you can see. So your applications will surface messages. You'll get notifications from the system, and all comes into that one area. You can go back to this. They'll stay until you swipe them away, and you can just hit clear all up here to do that if you'd like to. Good. Question was, is tablet mode the same as phone mode? No, tablet mode is not phone mode. There actually is not a phone mode. I think what you're saying is that we will have another version of Windows 10, which is basically the exact same operating system, the core OS, with all the features and functionality built in at the lower level of the system, all available. So VPN will still be on there. A lot of the base functionality will be in phone and also in small tablets as well. That is specific to phone devices.
There was a demo actually at Build from last week. You may be referencing this, where Joe Belfiore had a future prototype Windows 10 phone device, which he connected a mouse, keyboard, and a monitor to, and was able to use a Windows 10 phone in kind of a somewhat limited kind of tablet mode, like a PC. And so we'd love to do that here. We don't have the hardware to do it, but absolutely go check out that demo. That may be kind of more towards what you're referring to, but that's relying on future hardware coming out. All right, so we'll keep jumping ahead. Again, if you're looking for more technical content here, a couple sessions coming up. The new user experience with Windows 10, which is tomorrow at 3:15 p.m. If you want to learn more about the UX, if you want to learn about the research behind it, why they made the changes they did, what the goals were, and obviously some of the more granular features, go visit that session.
That should be a very good session. There's a guy named Chaitanya who's leading that, and he's very deep into the research, what led to the design decision. So I really recommend that session.
And competing with those guys is Windows 10 for mobile devices, which is Tips and Tricks and Demo Fest. They'll show you a lot of great devices, and they'll really bubble up some of the cool new features. Also, the Microsoft Edge, which is replacing the codename Project Spartan for the new browser in Windows 10. All of that content, I believe, or the majority of that content has been covered, so it's going to be available on demand. Here's another conundrum.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we lost that one. If you build a robot without red LED eyes, can it still turn evil? Thank you for snickering that. I really appreciate that.
Right. Great. So when we think about, back to our example company of Contoso Design, and you think about the benefits that they would see from this mobile productivity section and set of features that we've discussed about. So obviously, PC prices have dropped in the recent years. Under $300 gets you a really good device nowadays. There's new form factors with 2-in-1s, with convertibles, just some really amazing devices out there, and the prices are dropping actually very quickly. So obviously, we need to go in and let people know about where we are with those devices and what's currently available. Those 2-in-1s, we've heard from customers they really like it because they now no longer have an old PC that they have to support and then have to decide whether to buy a new tablet or not. So a lot of the decision now is, do I buy a new tablet? Do I upgrade my old PC? If you go into these 2-in-1s, there's a great selection of devices that actually serve as both. Using the continuum feature that we showed you, you'll be able to switch effectively back and forth between the two.
Yeah, and just if you haven't seen a Surface 3 or a Surface Pro 3, that's what a 2-in-1 is. It's a device where you detach the keyboard, and now it functions as a tablet. You join the keyboard back on, and it's back into that traditional kind of laptop mode. So when you see 2-in-1, that's what we're referring to.
So I think this another benefit is this avoids user training costs. So obviously the Windows 7 experience is going to be very familiar. The Windows 10 desktop experience will be very, very familiar to Windows 7 users. You avoid some training costs there. You also avoid training costs with a new tablet, new user interface, someone who's not familiar with that. Since this experience will span across your phone, tablet, PCs, you'll see some savings there. Or these customers have told us that they would. You'll also see increased employee productivity and IT efficiency with fewer devices, less systems to support. We have a question here, gentlemen?
Will the RT be upgradable?
The question was, will the Surface RT be upgradable?
I believe the answer is that it won't be getting the full upgrade. There will be something will be released for RT, but it's not going to be fully upgraded to this kind of universal Windows 10 space. If you do a Bing search, you'll actually get a more definitive answer to that question.
Some of the benefits then for operations and IT, one platform for all your apps effectively, classic Windows apps, universal Windows apps, so the new apps from the store, Windows 32 apps, all your Office, of course, and SaaS apps as well. On the new browser, we've got a fast browser with Microsoft Edge. It's standards compliant, and this will run all your SaaS apps extremely well. You can build apps, universal Windows apps, that will span across all those form factors. So what we didn't talk about yet was the app platform. So when a company, an ISV, or yourselves want to develop an internal app, you can actually write it so that it scales and will run across the smallest form factor of phones, actually all the way down to IoT devices. But the very same code can be written to scale across all the way up to your tablets, your laptops, to your wall displays, and your Surface hubs. So really powerful and really effective use of the code. You can run that across all those devices. Obviously, security for data and apps across one platform, much easier to manage as well. And then you can save time deploying and managing fewer devices with the 2-in-1s. End users will love this. A great PC. Many of them haven't had a new PC for 3-4 years. They're mostly thinner, lighter, faster. You can find them just really great devices out there. Seamless switching between tablet and laptop mode. Apps that can run across form factors. So you've got the same UI, the same experience. The app behaves in the same way for this user, whether they're on their phone, tablet, or PC. A really good experience for them. They can also get all their business apps, personal apps, websites on a single device. So using the browser, using Win32 apps. The user should not care what the technology is behind these apps. And the fact that they can run all those apps on a single device is really key for them. You know what, we should go really quickly through Microsoft Edge.
Let's do that.
Yep. So
Any
let's show
questions,
you
folks?
another quick demo of Microsoft Edge. We didn't talk through that too much, but I want to show you this, the new browser.
Hopefully the Wi-Fi gods are smiling at us.
This should be connected over LAN, right?
Should be.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, let's see if we can get this going. Maybe while we're doing Ford's demo, we can see if we can get that going, and we can come back to Microsoft Edge.
Sounds good.
Let's talk about device deployment now. So again, operations and IT focused. When you have deployment choices, in the enterprise sessions, what you'll find is that we are basically outlining 3 options for how to deploy Windows 10. Wipe and load, which is a traditional process, especially in enterprises, where the entire operating system is removed off of a device, a new one laid down, and then the files and settings reapplied back on top of it. In Windows 10, it's supported, wipe and load, but it's not advised. What we're advising, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, is to do an in-place upgrade or to do provisioning for new devices. In-place upgrade basically preserves all your data, your settings, your apps, and your drivers. You install new Windows 10 setting, and then it restores on top of that operating system. So it's effectively doing what a wipe and load used to do, or you had to do as an IT partner or administrator, what you had to do previously manually. The in-place upgrade will do it itself. And we go through this on a daily basis. Actually, Ford's machine before this session was just going through an in-place upgrade. we're actually going to, and we can talk about this a little bit later, Windows as a service. Fresh updates, constantly updates to the operating system. And it basically is doing that process on almost a daily basis inside Microsoft. We'll talk about how you can change those settings and configure it for yourself, but this is really what we want to move to as the model for upgrading Windows in the future.
Yeah, it used to be from a perf perspective, you really wouldn't want to do an upgrade from a previous version of an OS to a new version. Most IT folks, and I'd like to see some nods if you agree here, would agree that you wipe the machine, you put a new version of the OS on it. Yes, it's time consuming, but that's the way to kind of get the best perf. We don't have stats here. Yes, sir. Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Nick, can you?
Yeah, so the question was around easy transfer and the easy transfer wizard, and I assume kind of what the process will be moving to 10. And so that's really what this is trying to address. The Windows engineering team that are building the upgrade experience to Windows 10, their goal is for, I'm going to call it, this is my words, not theirs, I'm going to call it perf parity. Their goal is to, once you complete that upgrade, first of all, for it to be a seamless experience, to not be a complex and cumbersome process. But then once you are on Windows 10 and you've come from whether it's 7 or 8.1, for you to have not just your apps transfer, not just your files, but to really see perf at the exact same level or better. And there are actually some examples now in the Windows engineering test labs where they're actually seeing a perf increase moving to 10. I don't have any data to back that up. Obviously, we're still a little bit early in that process. But we can talk about in-place upgrades here. And so your question, I think, was more along the lines of, will there be a Windows Easy Transfer tool baked into Windows 10? Is that?
Yeah. This process, the in-place upgrade process, is designed basically to obviate the need for those migration tools. This basically is ideal for Windows 7 and Windows 8 devices. It's basically an upgrade that can be delivered over Windows Update. We expect SMBs will do this over Windows Update. You can also do the update internally using System Center and that sort of thing, those bigger enterprise tools. But we expect SMBs to use Windows Update to do that. And Windows basically does all that work. As I was saying before, the idea is that that whole process is basically, you don't have to do that manually anymore. This will take care of it. It's actually a really smooth, easy process. No need to wipe and replace. Gentlemen here. What about Vista? So the in-place upgrade is supported from Windows 7 and above.
But it won't work on Vista?
Will the in-place upgrade not work? I don't believe so, no. Yep. Oops.
For an in-place upgrade through Windows Update, how does that manage the licensing consideration that that's not going to be free for the first year?
Yep.
You get your Windows Update-based in-place upgrade. How is that licensed?
I don't think we have that, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure we have a slide on that, but just to clarify, so Windows 10 is going to be a free upgrade for customers running 7 or 8.1. It's free for 8 as well, but you actually have to perform the upgrade from 8.1. So if you're on 8, go to 8.1 first and from 8.1 to 10. So it's an additional step, but there is obviously no cost involved. So the question from the gentleman at the front was around about licensing and how that actually works. We don't have a slide covering that from a technical perspective, but the free period, the 12 months that were announced, there is no kind of pay window for anyone that takes advantage after that point. So, for example, if you if you upgrade, if you take advantage of the free upgrade in that first 12 months, once that 12 months has expired, you don't have to pay anything. It's a perpetual upgrade of your license. So you now have a 10 license and it's yours.
And Nick, I don't think we've done any discussion on actual licensing terms and conditions yet. So that'll be coming out as we get closer to the upgrade period.
Right.
I'm not as interested in terms and conditions, more on the actual code. Because like most small businesses, we have
We just don't have it. We just don't know.
those are going to be individual. And so what I'm wondering is, one of the class really did, if you were going to do it to get the tool, then having
Yeah. So the right person who has those details, you probably was in his session, is Michael Niehaus. And I would go through to his next session and be sure to go through the deployment areas with him.
And there is still...
I just don't think we've disclosed that yet. So I don't know if he'll have an answer.
One of the things in going from Windows 7 to Windows 8, there was an application that I tried to run, and it looked at my machine and says, these are incompatible. What's going to happen to incompatible applications going from 7 to 10?
Good question. Do you know it?
we're looking at each other because we're not entirely sure how the best way to answer that. Based on what's kind of been announced so far and what's been demoed. Follow up with you afterwards. We kind of don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what we do expect. So what we do expect is with Windows 7, 8, 8.1 machines, we expect a very high compatibility bar. We're shooting for numbers in the high 90s in terms of what's compatible, what will come forward. In general, if you can run an app on Windows 7, 8, or 8.1, it will run on Windows 10.
One of the exceptions to
that,
inside program.
there's a couple of exceptions to that. Low-level system utilities, again, disk encryption, some sort of anything that accesses those low levels of the operating system, those still have to be worked out. But again, the app compat, the device compat, the driver compat, all extremely high bar.
Yeah, and the two things that I would just kind of add there is one, join the Windows Insider program and just go test it out and see what it is. I mean, there's millions and millions of Win32 apps out there, so at some point you will have to go and kind of test your own. Ford might be able to talk about this a bit later in his section. Absolutely not. He says, no, move on, don't talk about it. But then as we get closer to release, more of this information will come out. I mean, the whole Windows 10 story isn't available right now, which is kind of one of the reasons we can't give you a good answer. I apologize. But as a consolation, please come and have a piece of pizza. It's fantastic.
We can go to the next slide. What we have is some screenshots then for what this will look like.
We have lost the ability to go forward. Okay. There we go. Let's do that. Perfect. Okay, so this is screenshots of the upgrade process. We'll try and go through this very quickly. So we're starting with Windows 7. This is an experience you guys are very familiar with. And what's it going to look like? So this here is the Windows 10 upgrade launched via System Center. Correct. And we'll just kind of quickly, we'll assume this is happening very, very quickly.
The experience on a WU device, Windows Update device, will be somewhat different. The graphical user interface will be different. The messaging will be different. But we want to take this and show you what it looks like, what an in-place upgrade would look like.
And here we go. We're at 100%.
If anyone's familiar, if you're in the Insider program, this should all look very familiar. These are updates.
And here we are with Windows 10. And so that same machine, you can see the files that are on the desktop are still there. You can see the apps that were installed. Office, for example, are back in the taskbar. Here's that start menu on top. Now, I'm just going to layer the Windows 7 desktop on top of the Windows 10 desktop. And these aren't a kind of one-to-one. You'll see the scaling in the back, the desktop background is a little different. But it's very similar. And so if you've got someone that's coming from Windows 7, and this is what they kind of expect to see in the morning, or when they leave the office at the end of the day, and then you want to run the Windows 10 upgrade overnight. When they come back, it's not that much different. It's not the full screen giant kind of metro tiles that we saw with 8.1 that for some users was a drastic change. And we know that, not everyone deals with change the same way. So this is kind of a really good set of slides to show. And if you are testing Windows 10 at home, in the office or at home, maybe take your Windows 7 screenshot and save that before you go through the 10 upgrade, and just compare the two, because it's very, very similar, and we think this will make the transition a lot smoother.
We're going to keep moving through. We have about a half an hour left. We want to hit some of the new features. We've talked a lot about upgrades and things. We'll go through a little bit with device provisioning, which is a new way as well of getting Windows 10, but then let's hit some of the new features. Device provisioning is basically a very simple way to take an existing Windows 10 device. That's something you buy in the channel or through the retail store. Take that device, bring it into your environment, and you can basically apply a one file to that. You can send that file out in a number of different ways, via email, through a USB stick, SD card, a number of different ways. You can send it down over, I think, using an MDM tool as well. But basically, that one file contains the package of changes that you want to make to that device to make it fit into your environment. Number of things you can do to do that, and it's just a very really easy way to do changes like that. You can do things like upgrade the SKU from Pro to Enterprise. You can inject drivers in. You can enroll in an MDM solution. So just a number of different things. You can apply licensing, a number of things you can do to provision that device. So the tool, which is called the Windows Imaging and Configuration Designer, looks like this to make the file. It's a pretty simple process, but someone technical probably needs to do this. You go into here and you just do a new provisioning package. I can get you the link to this after the presentation, but you basically have a choice. Here is, on the left side of this screen, the different customizations that you can use. Different applications. You can tell it to download certain apps from the Windows Store. You can add drivers. You can change Windows features, add language packs. In this screenshot, we've got an Upgrade Edition product key, so you can get from Pro to Enterprise. Is this based on the NDT, was the question? I don't know if the underlying technology is the same, but it's basically designed to do effectively the same thing. Yes, you can use it to deploy Windows Store applications. I'm not sure if you can use it to deploy Windows 32 applications. What you can do is to enroll it into your MDM or System Center solution, and then deliver applications through that solution.
Why would you want to do that?
The question is whether you can uninstall OEM applications. I do not know.
Look, I don't know. One of the reasons why we're unable to answer some of these questions is two reasons. One, we're marketing guys and we're not very smart. We tried out for engineering, but they kicked us out. The second thing is that the Windows 10 story isn't yet complete. So it's quite possible that there will be an answer to that coming very, very soon between now and when it kind of is released. And in fact, on that point, this is actually happening right now, so it's probably too late to catch it. But
this is on demand.
What's new in Windows 10 deployment session will probably answer some of those questions, maybe not all of them, but some of them, and it'll be on demand very soon. Cool. Oh, look, another witty technical conundrum. What exactly is laser hair, and why do so many people want to remove it? Do you know what laser hair is? I don't know this. This is you.
We're going to go through...
We're going to jump ahead, guys, because we haven't got a lot of time left. Again, we want this to be interactive. I assume all of you on your phones are texting your loved ones saying, this is the best session I've been in so far. It's so good. Their demos all work. There was no internet connectivity. They had pizza.
There are a number of utilities and tools and features available in Windows 10 that we want to cover here as well. So management is really a key area where we've made a lot of progress, and these are especially true in the SMB space. We're talking about these, of course, in enterprise, but when you hear the enterprise sessions, you'll often hear that enterprises now have a choice. They can do System Center or MDM. In the case of small businesses, it really makes sense, we think, to actually look at these new tools and to base the environment off of this. Ford will come up and show us about Business Store as one example, but let's talk as well about Azure AD Login. So what you can do now is you have a choice of identity in your devices. Active Directory, of course, on-premise provides the business identity that you've been using for years, and Azure Active Directory actually takes this to the cloud. right? So you can basically now use your Azure Active Directory account. You can actually have them linked between your Azure on-premise Active Directory and your Azure Active Directory. You can have that linked together, but you don't have to do that. You can use just AAD as your only identity. So basically, your Active Directory lives in the cloud, and this covers a number of different benefits, right? You have a single identity. You don't have to manage the on-premise servers. You've got a single identity that cuts across Windows. It can be the same identity that you use for Office 365. So again, same sign-on for Windows and Office 365. OneDrive, OneDrive for Business, Windows Store, the Business Store, Azure Sites, and Azure Apps. So a really key piece of technology that's actually has a free version that you can use as an SMB, and it gives you just enough functionality to basically function as that identity. So the power of having that single sign-on opportunity as an SMB is really incredible. Actually, you can leapfrog enterprises to get to single sign-on at this point. You can leapfrog enterprises of getting just to a cloud identity. So that's a core piece of kind of fundamental, foundational technology that we'd really encourage you to go out and take a look at. And if you don't have an on-premise Active Directory, go ahead and leap right into that. So let's talk about Business Store. Yeah, we have one question. Thank you. Does it support group policy? So group policy is mostly used, of course, with an Azure Active Directory on-premise. So I don't believe that we will have the same support in AAD for group policy. Thank you. This gentleman is saying there's some GP support, some group policy support for AAD. Control passwords and the sort. Thank you.
Usually on a slice of pizza, sir.
That's what I'm saying.
They're getting smaller, but multiplying. All right, so glad to be here, everyone. My name is Ford McKinstry. I'm on the Business Store team. So we're part of the Windows Store and the Windows App Store team at Microsoft. And you may have seen material earlier in the week about what we're doing. There's several aspects of what we're doing, but one of the things is bringing the store together to be one store across Windows Phone and Windows Desktop and Xbox. And so with the app platform investments that we're making and universal Windows apps, we're able to satisfy that whole market with one storefront. The Business Store builds on top of that. And what we're essentially doing is enabling a business store that's brand new in Windows 10. So I did a demo yesterday as part of the Windows 10 for Enterprise overview. And what we focused on there was essentially something similar to what I'm going to show you all today, but I'm going to show you something new and different that's really tailored better to the SMB audience. And so yesterday I showed a flow of going into the Windows Store, the business store for Windows 10, and acquiring an app, and then deploying it out through System Center. However, one of the neat things that we've done and enabled here with the Business Store is essentially enable a way to deploy apps to users in your organization without using management tools. And I'll show you what that looks like. So the first thing that I'd say is that what the investments that we've made to date satisfy businesses of all sizes. The thing I'm going to focus on today, I think, is better tailored to the SMB audience. So as Brian said just a minute ago, we're leveraging Azure Active Directory credentials to allow businesses to be able to identify themselves to a lot of different Microsoft products, including the Business Store for Windows, as a member of their organization. Today, when you go to the Windows Store, you have to identify yourself with your MSA credentials, which means you're a consumer. It makes it really hard for a business to be able to acquire content in bulk and manage it at scale and be able to reclaim licenses and so on and so forth, and deal with scenarios where there's BYOD of people bringing their own devices into the workplace and acquiring content that they may have your business paying for, but it's going onto their device, and then when they leave the business or switch to a different role, you can't manage that application that they acquired. So what we're doing here is essentially satisfying all the use cases I just covered by by some simple investments here that I'm going to show you. And so the first thing we're going to do is, here's an admin at Contoso logging into the business store. And this admin has been to the business store already. And what they did when they went to the business store was essentially accept the terms of use and go in and do some configuration for their business. I'm not going to go through that today. We have a session on Thursday afternoon if you want to learn more about the business store and some of the specifics, and we can cover it then. But the first thing I'd point out is that when you log into the business store, you essentially get a shopping experience that looks very familiar. It's very much based on the consumer web store experience for acquiring content. And so we have some sample content up here. I'll go ahead and click on the Microsoft Dynamics app. And what you see here again is a familiar experience where the product details page is rendering. There's a new licensing type we're supporting that we call offline licensing. I went into a little bit more detail on it yesterday. I'm going to skip it for today. We'll go into a lot of detail on Thursday if you're interested. But for online licensing, which is essentially the way store apps work today, you can say, I'll acquire this app. Now, when you get to this dialog, what we want to do is make a very simple experience for somebody to quickly go get an app and get going with it. So we're going to give you one little dialog here that has you essentially confirm the acquisition of that app for your business and also choose how you're going to deploy it. So we created some very simple mechanisms to get that app deployed quickly out to your organization. This first one's what I'm going to show today. We call it the private store. And you'll see what that looks like in a second. But essentially, if you think of the Windows Store that's inside Windows 10 on the desktop, and we're going to enable an experience that you'll see here in just a second that essentially presents the apps for your business users to them inside that store. And we call that the private store, and that's the first option here, and I'm going to select that. But before I move on, I'll mention that there's also a very simple mechanism, depending on your business size, that you may want to use, which is essentially, while you're acquiring the app, you actually know who this app needs to go to, and you just want to type in their email address and essentially have an email fired off to them. When they get the email, they click the link in the email, and they go to the store and essentially bring down the app themselves. So is the business store available only for Azure Active Directory? And the answer is to actually log into the business store itself. So the one person in your org, at least, that would be doing the experience that I'm showing you right now, they would have to have an Azure Active Directory tenant and an identity. If you're using online licensing, the users in your organization would also have to have Azure Active Directory identities. They can be sunk from your on-premises AD, or you can set them up directly in AAD. If I had selected offline licensing, that's not true. We don't have that requirement for the users in your organization. And I covered that a little bit more yesterday, and I can talk to you about it after or on Thursday. So you can send an email out, or you can say, hey, I want to acquire this now, but I don't know how I'm going to distribute it. I'm going to figure that out later. So we'll go ahead and complete the acquisition. And what that brings you to is our inventory page. So now that motion took an app from the store and added it to your company's inventory. And in this case, Contoso has 4 apps now. The app that I just acquired is at the top, is the Microsoft Dynamics. And I was talking while it was happening, but there was a little bit of a change that happened here under the private store because I had made that selection on the previous dialog that basically is taking that app and it's publishing it into the private store for your organization that I'm going to show you next. But while I'm sitting here on inventory, I'll make a couple other points, which is you can see all the apps that you've acquired. This last app you see twice. And the reason that it's listed twice is because it's acquired once for online licensing and once for offline licensing. That's interesting. The other thing that's interesting is that this app is not a retail store app. It's actually a custom line of business app that is specific to Contoso. This is the same app home builder that Joe B. actually demonstrated in the keynote speech on Monday. So it's if you have that need in your business, you can actually take a custom app and put it in through the Apps Dev Center in the same way that retail apps enter the store. And while it enters as you go through the Dev Center experience, you specify that app is just intended for this specific business. And then we essentially isolate that app to just the business that it was targeted toward. So that is also supported if it's interested to you, and we can talk about it a lot more on Thursday. So I'm going to show you now that Dynamics app at the top got published to the private store for Contoso. So let's go look at what that looks like. So now here I am on a Windows 10 desktop that I'll show you here on the Start menu. Has Jane Smith is a member of your business at Contoso that is already logged in. And Jane's going to launch the store app. And this is what I was referring to earlier as the app store that comes with Windows. And you look at it and you go, oh, Ford, that's something I've seen before. That's the app store in Windows. But in this case, you may not have noticed that there's an additional tab here at the top called Contoso. And that appears because Jane is authenticating to this gentleman's comment or question earlier. She's authenticating as a member of Contoso because she's using her Azure Active Directory identity to log into Windows. And as a result of that, that brings up the tab and puts it on the store for her that says Contoso, because we know she's a member of that organization. And it allows the store to know that these are the applications that the administrator or the purchaser or the person that's acting as the IT professional for your business has made these apps available for your business through the store. So again, we're trying to enable like a very familiar consumer-like experience for the users of your organization to both find the apps that you made available to them as well as click on them and go through the download experience that is very similar to what they would have done as a consumer. And I know we're running low on time. I'd just make one more point, which is you guys are the first people to see this demoed live outside Microsoft, so I'm happy that you're all here to join me for it. I see a question here.
Do you require admin rights to be able to install one of those apps?
No, you do not require admin rights to install the apps.
The local user you're talking about on the machine?
Right.
Yep.
They only have to be authenticated as a member of the organization. Yes?
On the other screen where you're saying at the email address, does that work so that only the people who say can install them, or is it only the one who wants to notify? Maybe if you have an app, you have to license per user, and people just take it from
Yes. So the question was, I sent the email to a specific user in one of the cases I talked about, and the answer is, what if another user got the email and they clicked on it and tried to claim it? So So in my scenario where I was choosing between publishing to the private store versus sending email, if I sent email, that app was not necessarily added to the private store, so it wouldn't show up for your other users. So if I had bought Dynamics and just emailed it to you, it wouldn't have showed up in the private store for the rest of our organization. So could you forward the email to somebody else and allow them to get access? And the answer is no. We do something slightly different there between the two experiences. They're very similar, but in the case where the person that owned the app, they acquired it for the business, where they assigned it to a specific individual, when they did that motion, it actually creates an entitlement for that user in the store service. And the email essentially is notifying them that that app has been made available to them. If someone else tried to claim it, we wouldn't allow them to. However, when it's published to the private store, something slightly different happens. It actually says, hey, it's open for anybody in the organization to go ahead and claim. So if the user leaves the company, it's a very good question. So essentially, just like the store licensing happens today for consumers, essentially licenses get renewed on some periodic basis. So if the admin does nothing, essentially the store will figure out that application is no longer being used by that person, and the administrator, whoever's acting as the administrator for the organization, can essentially go in and reclaim that license using the business store in that inventory view. And we switched away from it because we don't have time, but I can show you after or on the Thursday session what the rest of that experience would look like.
Go one more.
One more?
One more question, yeah.
How do businesses create their own private app store? So that was essentially what I was trying to imply with the demo, which is somebody in the business would go into the business store using the portal I showed and find what apps they want to actually make available to their company. Once they go find those apps, one of the mechanisms they can use to get the app to their users is by adding them to the private store for their organization, and it would show up just the way. So that would be the visualization that your users would get to find the apps that you put in their private store. Does that make sense? Okay. Another question? Do you guys want me to stop so you can finish up? Okay, well, let's take one more. All right, so how would a company add its own apps to the store? And the answer is, it would go in to the dev center to submit an application, just like any developer goes to submit any application to the store. However, when they get there, they're going to do an authorization step with your business to be approved to create an app that is just for your business. And when they go through the dev center, they'll actually select that this app is just for you, and they'll be prompted for that because they were previously approved for that. And then that app is isolated to just your business after that. There's another question, but I'll let you go.
Keep going,
Okay.
yeah. We have.
How many apps are pre-approved in the business store? So right now, that's actually something that is on the survey that we set out for you guys to help us with. And the answer is, we don't know yet. There's many options there. There's a ton of apps in the store today, in the consumer store. We can certainly make those apps available. We're going out and specifically going after different vertical markets and different size business requirements, or different size businesses and their requirements of different apps that they need. But we need your help to actually figure out what is most important to you. And then, of course, we've enabled this scenario where you have an app that is just yours and you want to be able to use this mechanism I described to get that app out to your users, and we've done that as well. So please fill out the survey and drop it off before you walk out of the room, and or talk to myself after.
Cool. Thank you, Ford.
Thank you, Ford. And your session is tomorrow. Thursday at 1:30. So for more questions there on Business Store, make sure you check out Ford's session. And thank you for debuting your demo here in the Windows SMB section. Very cool.
So
thank you, Ford. Slice of pizza, Ford? You want to wet your whistle? Slice of pizza? No? Okay. All right.
Another, just a great example of how you can use the Microsoft Cloud services that we're building out and continuing to build out for SMBs. I think SMB customers are really going to benefit from the next wave of innovation here, just in terms of what you can do, the scalable solutions that you can build out. Here we've just listed some of the benefits for the business. Bulk acquisition for free and paid apps. You can use a free Azure Active Directory account to set up. While you're at it, you can set up your identity for your company. The company, in this case, retains ownership, which we didn't have before, and can reallocate those seats. And then finance can use easy payment methods like purchase order that you can have the company buy. So operations and IT, a dedicated portal for your business. So basically, you effectively get, you can look at this as application management for an SMB, right, included in the product. You can acquire and deploy apps for your business, including LLB apps, and you've got a flexible distribution scenario, so a number of ways that you can get at it. Using, again, the Microsoft Cloud service behind the Windows Store, you're using that as your app distribution mechanism, effectively.
And if you think back to the scenario at the very beginning of the session, we had this Contoso company. They're a small company. They're 35 employees. They have an IT partner that serves as both their outsourced IT support as well as kind of that advisory component. But they can actually manage the entire app process, the app portal, the app store, deployment, acquisition, remotely or on site for their customer. So you guys now, if you have a customer base where you're managing their IT for them day in, day out, you actually now have that kind of on-premise level of granularity that you can do now remotely.
The end users benefit because they get all their apps from a single place, from the store. They can get, and they can also have a shared identity. So when they log into your private catalog or the private store, they're using their Azure AD account to get the apps that you've provisioned. When they log into the Windows Store as a consumer, they're using their Microsoft account, their consumer identity, to get those apps. So that's how you can separate the ownership of the apps, and the consumer can actually download the apps that he or she actually wants. Again, you can actually share the Azure AD account with Office 365. So the same account you use for your Office 365 tenant can be used across the business store and to log into the device. So just a much streamlined identity on your devices. Another area we wanted to hit quickly is MDM Client. So MDM Client is actually built into Windows 10 now, and it was in Windows 8 and 8.1 at a very, I'd say, an entry level. Windows 10 really brings that up quite a few notches. So this is the standards-based MDM client. You can use Microsoft Intune. You can also use third-party MDM solutions. You're probably aware of this already. The big news here is that what we've done in Windows 10 is you can see in Windows 8.1 on the left, we had simple BYOD settings for desktop. Phone even had more settings for management in MDM than Windows 8.1 desktop did. In Windows 10, we've taken those above the BYOD scenarios. So you can do device lockdown, you can do fully managed corporate device using MDM. So the good news here for SMBs, again, is that you can use a simpler service. You don't have to do an on-premise system center implementation with your own servers. You can actually use a cloud service with Intune or another cloud MDM provider to manage your devices. And one thing that you may not be aware of is Office 365 actually has started rolling out I'd call it an entry-level MDM service within their tenants. So this actually is just rolling out in the last month, and if you are already an Office 365 subscriber, you should see this MDM settings show up. This includes conditional access, device management, selective wipe, and reporting. It's too early to talk about details in terms of what Windows 10 PCs can and cannot do within Office 365 MDM, but it's an interesting space to watch. Again, if you're an Office 365 subscriber already, you basically would get MDM included in that subscription. Windows 10 will be manageable by that. Again, watch this space to find out exactly how. Technical content in terms of this, MDM, there's a couple of sessions tomorrow and Thursday with the Intune and System Center team, and also MDM in depth. Again, these are probably geared more towards the enterprise customers. This is why we're highlighting some of the benefits for you here. Right, we will skip this section on some of the benefits, and let's go into Windows Update. Let's see how we're doing on time. We can spend probably 2 minutes on Windows Update. So if you did watch the foundational session yesterday, you'll know that Windows as a service is an area that we're moving into. So as we think about consumer devices that were on Windows Update, they were getting updates through Windows Update as they arrived. Hundreds of millions of devices kept up to date. A really large and diverse user base that basically helped us to increase the quality of the operating system. On the other end, you have special systems that were managed solely through WSUS and mostly through enterprises. These systems are things like traffic control systems, medical equipment, where you really don't want updates coming down to the machine. You just want the base level of security updates, but you don't want functional updates coming along. In the middle of this was business users. On the one hand, they didn't want to take the immediate service updates as a consumer would, because they wanted a little bit more stability than that. On the other hand, you still want to deliver innovation to them. So business users, what we're doing in Windows as a service is to have them update those devices after those updates have hit the consumer service on Windows Update. Business users will be able to take that after some delay, and you can control that as a customer or a partner. And after they're validated in the market with consumers, apply them to the information worker machines. There's a new service, Windows Update for Business, which will be coming out for Windows Pro and Windows Enterprise, where you as a IT or a partner can control the rings. So within one company, you can actually set a very fast-paced ring. So your IT or your canary machines, you want to actually test things out, you can get them as they come out. And then your other rings of information workers, you can delay those rollouts further out. Peer-to-peer delivery, so you don't have to do all over-the-wire updates. You can actually have one machine in your environment, get the update, and it will share that update among the others. It does integrate with existing tools like System Center, but you don't need to do that as an SMB. let us move into conclusion. We've got a couple minutes left. And so just in terms of summary of the benefits for this small business example and the partner, on the business and finance side, we basically have a business that gains in the sense that they have IT projects now that are supporting and geared towards what their objectives are from the business sense. Employees happier with more productive devices and with technology that helps to support them. Their spending shifts with cloud services from CapEx to OpEx. So actually pay-as-you-go model and scaling up, as we saw at the beginning of the presentation. And of course, the secure business data. We had to skip the security section. There's a couple of sessions with Chris Hollum and Dustin Ingalls. Very deep technical sessions on the security features, including Windows Hello, and another feature called Enterprise Data Protection, which is just really incredible. I highly recommend going to those sessions for security.
And as with all sessions, this presentation will be available to download off the Ignite website. So any of the slides that we have skipped, you guys can absolutely check them out.
Great. On operations and IT, as an IT department or partner, you basically align your IT projects with the business priorities. You've got simplified deployment for saving time, avoiding costs. You can use Microsoft's enterprise-grade cloud services to actually build out your own services, and you can scale those up and down using things like Business Store, using things like MDM cloud services. The people in the organization happier with modern mobile devices, more productive while mobile, a familiar experience across their devices, and they're able to use their personal and business data and apps in their work life.
So we had a couple minutes left for Q&A if you have some extra questions. Just to kind of finish off here, though, I think the big takeaway from our perspective is we really want you to go and join the Windows Insider program. We really want you to start testing. So test for yourself. So you're familiar with Windows 10. You understand how it works. You can see the similarities to Windows 7, the innovations that have come forward from 8.8.1. But the gentleman with the question around app compatibility, one of the really important things about the Windows Insider program is if you go and join that now and run run one of the builds in Windows Insider, go and do your app compat now. Go and test if those apps will run effectively in 10. And if they don't, two things can happen. One, you can roll back to your previous OS, that's fine. The other thing too is that the engineering team will capture all of that telemetry, all of that data from what worked and what didn't work. That goes back to them, and they will use that to make the product better. And they'll use that as we march towards RTM, and they'll use that for future waves. So I believe as the Windows 10 story kind of continues to evolve and continues to become more complete and rolled out, we will have more information directly about app compat and how you can run kind of deeper app compat testing. We don't have it here in this particular session, but please join the program. Please go run the builds and start testing yourself. So
There is an application compatibility for Windows 10 session.
Thank you.
I'm giving you a pizza. Or a baseball. There are baseballs. There's actually these awesome Chicago baseballs down here.
They are pretty cool.
So yeah, you guys are free to leave, but we have last minute Q&A, last couple minutes.
Come on up to the stage. We also have there's a Spiceworks community that, oops.
Really no sound.
We don't. Okay.
Sounds to try.
I think you're right. There's a community in Spiceworks of IT professionals that work in small businesses. We'll be posting this video up and just give some of their initial impressions of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.